Let me apologize for my look. I was not feeling makeup today, so I didn't wear any. Anyway, so I'm super excited to be on tonight. I'm so happy that I get to join you guys again and do another little training. I'm a little obsessive compulsive about preparing. And again, here we go. All right, so we have a title because that's who I am. So tonight's title, we're going to talk about grit. And the title is, how do you like your grit? Are you salty or sweet? So here in the South, we eat grits. I mean, I know we're not all from the South. I prefer mine savory, not with sugar. So we're going to talk about grit tonight. It's going to be a little definitely different than last time, but I love this topic. And there's this book by Angela Duckworth. She studies the science behind grit, and it's such an amazing book. So if you want to get that book, I highly recommend it. So grit, it's a noun, and grit means possessing indomitable spirit, having a drive for achievement regardless of upbringing or situation, earning success in the trenches through hard work. It requires perseverance and passion for a very long-term goal. So having grit is like for the long haul. It's not a short-term thing. It's about persevering through long-term goals. So when I was doing this research, I thought possessing indomitable spirit, what does that mean? So I'm thinking, is that like the abominable snowman from Rudolph? No, it's not. I don't even ever say that word right. But indomitable means impossible to subdue or defeat. So throughout this whole Zoom, I want y'all to think about that. Impossible to subdue or defeat. Impossible, right? So to me, when I think about grit, that's what I think about is indomitable spirit. So being impossible to subdue, impossible to stop. Grit is about constancy of effort. It's not a short-term push. It's like being consistent. We all preach that when we sign up people for these products. We're like, consistency is key, consistency is key. But are we saying that to ourselves in the mirror? Like when we get up and we're doing our rounds? And I mean, we all can agree that rounds are not the most fun thing, but we have to do those every day. We have to look at the numbers. I'm here to tell you, number one, I don't love looking at the numbers because when they go down, everybody's like, oh, the numbers went down. But you have to be consistent in looking at those numbers, because if you're not looking at your numbers, then you don't know what you need to do, right, to hit your goal. So we should really be saying that to ourselves in the mirror, not just people who are signing up. Consistency is key. Consistency is key. When I was a little girl, my mom's parents, I spent a lot of time with them. They were no nonsense kind of people. And my mom tells me that I got a double dose of their no nonsense. I really just don't have I'm not really fuzzy and warm and fuzzy. I've been told this. So maybe a lot of their lessons were not the perfect roadmap on how to be as an adult, but I do feel like they taught me lessons that were very valuable. My grandfather used to say things to me like, cowgirls don't cry. I grew up on a farm. I've always been around horses and cattle and all these things. So was that the greatest thing to tell a little girl? Probably not. But that's neither here nor there. He still said it, and I feel like it did kind of shape who I was. But one of the things he always told me was any job worth doing is worth doing well. So don't halfway do anything. So I think that's why anything that I take on, I'm 100% committed, and I'm committed until the end because I always have a goal. So I inherited that from them. They were movers and shakers, and they were always doing something, and they never stopped to kind of complain or oh, what if this happens or whatever. They had an end goal and they were working for it. So I got a double dose of that. And my grandmother now lives with my mom. She's elderly now, and she's still like that today. Like, she still has an end goal, and you're not going to change her mind. If she has an idea, it's happening. So they stayed focused. And so I feel like a lot of my focus does come from them and having that as I grew up. So, but what we eventually accomplish in our lives, it may depend more on our passion or perseverance than on our innate talent. So Angela Duckworth really, she has a quote out there, and she talks about that, how passion and perseverance really take you further in life than innate talent. So basically, she's saying that passion and perseverance, which are characteristics of grit, are precursors for excellence. So basically, she's saying if you're gritty, you can be excellent. And that's what we know. But the beautiful thing about that is she is saying that you don't really need to be talented to be successful and excellent. So you don't have to possess a certain talent to be these things. She's absolutely saying that what you need to succeed is just the drive to succeed. I mean, how great is that? Like, if you have a drive, you can be excellent and successful. And that's what we really talk about in this business, like being successful in this business. So you can create, hone, sharpen, and make grit to be excellent. You do not have to possess any special talents to be successful in this. Practice makes perfect, and you can practice to be gritty. So moving on to the 5 characteristics of grit, I want you to take inventory when we go through these and think about how many of these you possess. How many characteristics of grit you possess. Like, take an inventory, think about it, look at what you want to work on, look what maybe you don't have that you want to work on having. And that's the beautiful thing about this. Like, it literally takes, like, I played basketball my entire high school career, volleyball. I was excellent at volleyball, all state champ, right? Horrible at basketball. I played my heart out, but I was terrible at it. I had no talent. But the beautiful thing about what we do is you really don't have to possess any certain talents. Like, you don't have to be able to shoot a free throw or, a 3-pointer, whatever. Thank God for that, right? Because if we did, I would be totally out. So the first characteristic of grit is courage. Okay, so courage is directly proportional to your level of spirit. Think about like going live, showing your face on stories, getting a little vulnerable on your page or on your stories. Those of us who seem to be extra gritty, we're not afraid of failure. We're not afraid to embarrass ourselves. We're not afraid to fall on our face, because you have to understand the thing about defeat, or the thing about being gritty is that gritty people understand the value of defeat. Because what do you learn when you fail at something? You learn, well, I'm not going to do that again. So you're going to pick back up and you're going to, what is the saying? Try again. So you have to keep getting up and trying again, because that is the number one thing that's going to make you better, is the consistency of practice and the consistency of trying, regardless if you fail or not. And so one thing that really sets gritty people apart from non-gritty people is they're not afraid to fail. And I can't tell you how many times I've been on Instagram stories and say something wrong or embarrass myself terribly. I don't care. I don't care if I get 15 mean messages. It does not affect me at all. Now, if somebody close to me says something mean to me, I might be like, I don't really like you saying that. But if a stranger says something mean to me, it literally does not affect my day. Not at all. I'm like, oh, well, you suck, whatever. So that's the difference between gritty and non-gritty people. Like, we're really not afraid of failure. And that sometimes can take practice, like being able to take punches. That's what my dad calls it, being able to take punches. He has 3 grandsons, and he levels them out by how many punches that they can take without getting, not physical punches. Please don't think we're abusing our children over here. Not physical punches, but like, like somebody says something mean to you, like how many punches can you take? So we really kind of grew up with that frame of mind, just not really putting a lot of stock in what strangers said to us. Like, you really are not going to make or break my day if you're a stranger and you don't like me. So that's really one thing, the courage of putting yourself out there and not being afraid of failure. I encourage each of you to read Theodore Roosevelt's speech, Man in the Arena. I'm an English nerd, so I don't know how many of you have ever read that speech of his, but it is amazing. And there's a little tiny part that I want to read to you guys. And I think it really summarizes what the point that, I'm kind of trying to make tonight. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, I cannot say that word, I'm sorry, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best in the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. So basically, he's saying better it is to be in the arena and let people mock you for trying to be great than it is to stand on the sidelines and never know defeat or greatness. So I really love that speech of his. I encourage you all to read that sometime when you have time. It's pretty long, but it really is a great read. So number one was courage. Number two is conscientiousness. I know it's crazy word. Of the 5 personality traits, conscientiousness is the most closely associated with grit. Being conscientious in this context means careful, painstaking, and meticulous. So basically having a plan, having a goal, having a map. And so I was thinking when I was preparing this, you think about your map. Every first day of the month, what do? We go in there and make that map. Why? Because we're making a meticulous plan of what we're going to do and how we're going to exceed and make those goals, right? So in other words, in the context of conscientiousness, grit, and success, it is important to commit to go for the gold rather than just show up for practice. So if you're in a sport and you're just showing up for practice, you don't really care. So the person who shows up for practice and says, we're going to win state, and I'm going to shoot that winning shot at state, that person is probably going to go further than just the person who shows up, right? So you can also put it as, why be the race? Why wouldn't you want to be the racehorse and not the donkey? I'm not going to say the other word, but why wouldn't we want to be the racehorse, right? It's better to be the racehorse. Number 3 is endurance, which means follow through. Value of long-term efforts. Like I said, this is a marathon and not a sprint. Like, you're not going to wake up one day and in a week you're not going to be diamond. I mean, some days I wish that we would wake up and be diamond, but we're not. So I always think about when we're talking about like practice and follow through and enduring. There's some research by Gladwell. It's called the 10,000 hour theory. And basically what he says is, to reach a level of excellence, you have to at least practice 10,000 hours. Just the first level of excellence, you have to have 10,000 hours of practice. So I was thinking about what I do from 9 to 5. I'm a forensic interviewer. I've been doing it now for 8 years. I've done 1,000 interviews. So an interview lasts from anywhere from 45 minutes to 2 hours. So I've probably had, about, counting training, maybe I've had 5,000 hours. Okay, I have not even reached the first level of excellence, and they call me an expert. So imagine how much better I'm going to be at 2,000 interviews and 3,000 interviews, because I'm honing a skill. I don't show up for work every day and be like, I'm going to go in there and try to see what I get. No, I focus on it. I prep for it. I study it, because I want to be the best at the end of the day. It's all about endurance and follow through. Number 4 is resilience. So think about the name of our team. Basically, resilience is your long haul to greatness. You're going to stumble and you're going to have to get back up, because you can't just lay there in the dirt. Everybody's going to fail. Everybody's going to stumble, and you just have to get back up. And that's one of the main things about having grit, is the ability to get back up when you fall. getting back up gives you strength. And you're going to wipe the dust off and you're going to remount and get back on the horse. That's what you're going to do, because that's what we do. I always think about your why. So when I think about my why, you think about yours. Think about, does that why get you up in the morning? Like, is your why so great and your passion so fierce? Would you get up out of the bed for it? My why is my child. Being a single mom, I never want him to think, oh, well, something bad happened, I'm just going to give up. No, that's not the lesson I want to teach Drake. I want to teach Drake that when something bad happens and you fall, you get right back up and get back on the horse. That's what we do. And so that's my why. That's enough to get me out of the bed in the morning. So if your why is not enough to get you out of the bed in the morning, then you don't have a strong enough why, period. You have to be hard and fast, unshakable and unmovable in your belief and your why of why you're doing what you're doing. Number 5 is excellence versus perfection. Okay, gritty people don't seek perfection. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to get up tomorrow and be perfect. I don't try to be perfect. I am striving for excellence. So in order to be excellent, you have to really throw perfection to the wind. We're never going to post perfectly on Instagram. We're never going to post perfectly on Facebook. We're never going to always say the right thing. But perfection is really someone else's perception of an ideal. It has really nothing to do with you. It's somebody else's idea. Like, think about the world's idea of beauty. I'm not going to buy into that because I don't necessarily buy into their ideal of beauty. So excellence in our, or perfection in our minds is just somebody else's idea of what perfect is, because really there's no such thing as perfect, right? So excellence is an attitude. It's not an end game. Like excellence, grit is an attitude. It's about seeking, striving, finding, and never yielding. So it's not about perfectionism. It's about excellence and constantly moving forward. When you stumble, don't move back. Keep going, move forward. I think we're going to run out of time, so I'm not sure. But there's a few ways that we can build grit. So the first thing that we can do is you have to define what grit means to you, right? You have to set a goal and be absolutely unwavering in your goal. My goal at the end of the day is to be double diamond. Emerald, sapphire, and diamond, they're just stepping stones for me. And you're not going to convince me otherwise that I'm not going to get there. Like, you could call me every day and be like, Stacey, well, you're going to get stuck at sapphire. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hang up the phone and be like, whatever. I'm already planning my diamond documentary. I already told y'all that last time. And Robin sends me outfits probably twice a week and be like, hey girl, you look good in this in your diamond documentary. And I'm like, you bet I will. That's what I'm going to wear. That's the song I'm going to play. I'm unwavering in the fact that I'm going to be double diamond. I'm going to hit these other steps and I'm going to move forward and I'm going to do something else. And then maybe by that time I'll be married and I'm going to do it a third time and I'm going to be a triple diamond. You can't tell me otherwise. And I don't care if you try, because I'm not going to believe it, because I'm going there. Whatever your goal is, like, you have to schedule yourself. Think about, like, sometimes I see people work in this Plexus business and I'm like, if I put as much effort into my 9 to 5 as they did into that business, y'all, I get fired tomorrow. Okay. This is a business. It's not a hobby. You've got to show up. I mean, this money isn't going to make itself. I wish I could make money while I slept. I saw somebody's story the other day. It was like, make money while you sleep. And I thought, okay. I mean, I'm interested, but I don't think that's a thing, but maybe it is. You have to be committed. So if you say to yourself, I'm going to work Plexus every day from 5 to 7, and your friend calls you up and be like, hey, you want to go to Starbucks or to a movie at 6? And you're like, I can't, because from 5 to 7, I got to work. And like, I had some concert tickets a few months ago and I was real excited about that show, but there was a business thing and I sold those tickets and people thought I was nuts. But like I said, when I'm triple diamond and I'm sitting in my lake house, getting in my G-Wagon, going to the grocery store, I'll be like, I'm so glad I sold those tickets. You see what I mean? That's a crazy example, but I'm just saying you have to be committed. You have to be committed. You have to schedule time in for yourself. This is a business. It's not a hobby. Build grit with small physical wins. So often we think that grit is how you respond to extreme situations, but really it's in everyday circumstances. Mental toughness is like a muscle. So I had to work on my mindset every single day. I was telling Tanya this morning, when I get up in the morning, I literally do not turn over my phone for 30 minutes to an hour. I don't. It doesn't matter how many text messages I know are there. Doesn't matter what I need to do. I do not turn that phone over for 30 minutes to an hour. And why is that? I need the time to get my mental self right. So when I sign in to do those rounds and 3 people have turned off their sub, I don't go, oh, Lord, what am I going to do? Woe is me. I'm never going to make it. I can't do that, y'all. And I really encourage you all to really just spend 20, 30 minutes in the morning just being like, no matter what comes my way, everything's going to be okay. I'm going to make it no matter what. So you really have to set small physical things, or really when troubles come, it's going to knock you down every time. So you have to choose to ask the extra questions when it like prove to yourself in 1,000 tiny ways that you have enough gut to get in the ring and do the battle with life. Like say, I can do it. I'm a winner. You are your biggest cheerleader. Okay. You can't rely on other people in your life to cheer you on all the time. They're going to, but you have to be your biggest cheerleader. You have to be, because you can't put that on other people. The third thing is build strong habits and stop depending. Are we out of time?
No, hold on. Before we are out of time, with less than 1 minute, sorry to interrupt, but do you mind, I mean, people that want to get off now can, but do you mind if I just set it up super fast for the same thing? If you guys want to stay on and Stacy just finish this up, because it's so good. And I took like so much of her time in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there. If anybody wants to listen and finish what Stacy has to say, just type in the same code again and I'll set it right up for right after. Okay, you can go on until we get kicked off, I guess.
Okay. Okay. But going back to like building with small physical wins, choose to create what would be easier to consume, and that is small goals. And so if you set a huge goal, like sometimes people are like, that's ridiculous, you're wanting to go triple diamond. My first goal is getting to emerald